Welcome back to Fright Flicks and our weekly review of American Horror Story Hotel, Season 5 of the anthology horror series on FX. Tonight's episode was the third episode in the new season. It's entitled Mommy. It was directed by a man named Bradley Becker, who is a veteran in Ryan Murphy circles. Directed several episodes of this show, as well as recently a very good episode of Scream Queens. This episode was written by a man named James Wong, this is his 8th or 9th episode that he's written of American Horror Story. But I remember him from many, many years ago. He was a staff writer on The X-Files and is responsible as a writer, director, producer for some of the best episodes of The X-Files they ever made. Same thing goes with that Lance Henriksen show, Millennium. This guy's a veteran. He's been around a long time, and he can write solid TV. I've seen him do it before, so that was definitely a good sign. Now, normally my partner at Fright Flicks, Mike, covers American Horror Story. I'm filling in for him tonight because he is hard at work directing a short film documentary called Murder Clowns: The Premiere. I recently directed and released a short horror comedy in the Christopher Guest mockumentary style called Murder Clowns: A Family Portrait, and we debuted it at a local theater. Mike was there, caught the whole thing on tape. Now he's editing it, and look for that doc. It's going to be on the Frightflix channel very soon, and you're going to love it, and it'll get you geared up to see my Murder Clowns movie. Now, because Mike's busy, I'm stepping in. I'm not a regular viewer of American Horror Story, and although I did see the pilot to Hotel, I actually didn't watch last week, and I decided to watch this week's episode cold. I wasn't going to go back and read a recap or watch I missed episode 2, so let's see how this episode struck me coming into it cold. I'm not going to bother doing a recap of the episode. A lot of people do a recap, and honestly, you're probably not listening to a review wanting to have all the events of the episode recounted for you. Let me just break it down to what I liked and didn't like. First of all, what I really liked about this episode was Evan Peters as James March, the reputedly one of the greatest serial killers who's ever lived. He designed the Hotel Cortez as a quote-unquote murder palace with fake doors, hidden hallways, acid baths, asphyxiation rooms. It's really cool stuff, A, and B, Peters nails it. Be totally honest, not a huge fan of the guy. He tends to play like mopey, sort of emo characters. Not into that. He's rocking a little pencil-thin mustache. He seems like a silver screen movie star. He's awesome. That said, he does come across as kind of Michael Cera-ish. Did you ever see that Michael Cera movie, that little rom-com where he adopts a fake persona as like a foreign kid, and he puts on a thin mustache and acts like somebody else? That's the vibe I get from Evan Peters in this, but that's having a little bit of fun. He's really good, and one of my problems with the episode, to balance that out, is that I wanted there to be more of him. To me, his little subplot there and the history of the murder palace, really cool stuff. Wanted more of that. The other thing I loved about this episode, the other person I loved in this episode is, you're probably tired of hearing of this. Anybody that has had anything to say about this episode, no doubt gives high praise to Angela Bassett, who basically, somebody had the idea, what if Pam Grier was a vampire? What would that be like? Going back and recreating like the blaxploitation, grindhouse look of movies, having Bassett do some of those old scenes, the movie posters they did, Bride of Blackenstein, awesome. I want a Bride of Blackenstein poster. Angela Bassett, I mean, of course, she's a super talented actress. Not always has her talents best utilized. She came across great in this episode, and although it's a little tenuous, most things on this show are tenuous. So I like that at least her character has an agenda and a direction in which to continue. So, we'll see how that pays off. I mean, she's definitely trying to take down Gaga. So I like when anybody's going to go after the Queen Bee like that. Something else I'll give a little credit to the show for. In the pilot, I gave it high praise for style, and I gave it some pretty strong words of criticism for its substance, which was very, very thin. I liked that they made an attempt in this episode to dig a little deeper. There was a lot of dialogue. There were several long one-on-one conversations, attempting to, I don't know, flesh out some of these flat characters a little bit. And I give them all due credit for that. Now, on the other hand, a lot of this dialogue wasn't that awesome, and a lot of those one-on-one conversations I felt went on for too long. They felt, I don't know, a little bit padded. Now, part of that may be due to the Wes Bentley factor. He's a creepo. So casting him in a role that is so far apparently intended to be sympathetic is a miscue, because Wes Bentley just seems like a creeper. After this episode, he also seems like a crybaby. And I don't mean because he cried. It's, hey, strong men also cry, like the Big Lebowski says. So I have no problem with that. But he came across like a crybaby. He's a super ugly crier, and it just seemed like he was falling apart, totally weak. That's coupled with the fact that he's investigating this religious-themed murderer that's leaving this trail of bodies all over the city. And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind. I guess this is moving away from a review and into killer theory, if I can, for a minute. He's obviously the killer. I don't believe he realizes it. I think what they're doing is the same thing that Kaufman made a joke about in Adaptation, where the hack Nicolas Cage twin is writing a screenplay in which a cop is chasing the killer, not realizing that they're both just different personalities of the same person. I think that's where this is going. I think Wes Bentley, the cop, is pursuing Wes Bentley, the killer, although he doesn't know it yet. But everybody else at the hotel probably does, based on their not very well veiled dialogue tonight. I'll admit I got a chuckle out of Bernie Madoff making an appearance in this episode. How great is it that in a show filled with, killers and ghosts and demons and weird body-stockinged, rapey dudes, and evil children, and all that, Bernie Madoff is like the cherry on top of that's like a little real-world villainy mixed in with the fictional villain. So I thought that was cute. What I didn't think was as cute... Alright, first of all, I'll admit I'm not sold on Gaga in this role. She's good, but if she's in charge of the hotel, I don't know. I'm lacking that extra dimension of being sinister that I feel she just needs if she's going to be the queen bee in this situation. Now, she weakened, the writers weakened her position, her standing in the show this week when, she revealed that she's going after a guy for his money, and she's not going to kill him until she gets all his money because she's broke and she needs money. I mean, I get that. That actually makes sense, but if you're going to be the main force of evil in this evil hotel, I don't know, maybe money shouldn't be such a motive. That's too much of a real world motivator. It should be just because she's evil, or she wants to bathe in the blood of children, or she worships mighty Cthulhu. I don't know, pick something. But doing something for the money, even if it's just like this one time, I don't know. Felt that it harmed her character, and I guess I should clear it up before. I wasn't criticizing Gaga as an actress. I think she's doing a fine job for a musician transitioning into acting. I don't think the character is written that strongly yet. Not yet. She could get there. Overall, I felt this was a fairly solid episode. Not really spectacular in any way. It had some ups and downs. The ups weren't as high as the pilot, but the downs weren't as low either. So overall, I felt it was a more enjoyable product than the last episode of this that I watched. A couple of the negative things would be a lot of time was spent on the relationship between Kathy Bates and her asshole son, Matt Bomber, and that didn't work for me. I don't like either character. I hated him. Like, I guess that's good on the actor, because just through his dialogue and his actions, he's like the worst son ever. So, and they spent a lot of time on this aspect. It was really the main thrust. That's why the main reason this episode is called Mommy. And since that didn't work for me, I don't know, it sort of took the backbone out of the piece. But there was a lot that I liked. Several subplots that I feel are interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go. On the final analysis, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm torn between a 5 and a 6. I'm going to go ahead and say this episode gets a 5. It's leaning towards 6-ish. Maybe it'll get there next week. Solid, but not spectacular. Not going to turn you into a hardcore fan of the show unless you are already there. That is all for this week. Hey, after this is over, scroll around, find our reviews of Scream Queens. From the creators of American Horror Story. It's a lot funnier. It's a little bit lighter in tone. Still pretty gross, though. So check out those reviews. You can find Fright Flicks on social media, on Twitter and on Facebook, or just leave a comment on this video. Mike or I will reply. We love talking to our viewers. One of us will be back next week for the review of Episode 4 of American Horror Story Hotel.